So is it happening? Did the AI bubble burst? I mean, yesterday NVIDIA lost 17% of its valuation, about $600 billion. That's a lot of money. Why did this happen? And is this the bubble collapse that I expected? For those of you who don't know, I registered a domain called didtheAIbubbleburst.com in last July because I was quite sure even then that there is going to be a bubble collapse. Interestingly, what we see now is not exactly what I expected at the time. So today I want to talk about, on one hand, what happened and why is this bubble collapse happening right now. Is it really a bubble collapse? I'm not sure. But at least a lot of companies did lose a lot of valuation, so it's worth talking about. And I will also tell you why I think this is different from what I expected. And if I still expect what I expect. So let's get into it. So just a quick summary of what happened. A couple of days ago, a Chinese company called DeepSeek has released a new model, which they claim they actually trained out of $6 million, which is significantly less than what OpenAI has been burning so far. And this is interesting because this model is basically equivalent in capabilities, or claims to be equivalent in capabilities, to that of OpenAI's current flagship. So that raises the question if OpenAI's business model is still viable or not, right? Why would anyone pay $200 for a model that they can get for free, or an equivalent model that they can get for free? It's questionable for me if OpenAI can make the money back that they already invested, but probably they are going to use similar methods to improve on their models, or at least make them run cheaper. So I don't expect them to go out of business, but there is a good chance that the investors will not see all of their money back yet, or at least for a long time. But the other question is, why did NVIDIA take such a hit? And it's because they are the ones creating the chips that people use to train these models. So if it's much cheaper to train these models, you need a lot less GPUs. That means that NVIDIA will probably sell less GPUs to these companies that are already making AI models. There is an argument to be made that this is not that bad for NVIDIA, because if it is cheaper to train models, a lot more companies will start doing it. I think there is a question there as well. The other question is, okay, we have a better way to train models, but what if we threw more compute to that same system? Would that make a better model? I'm going to talk about that a bit later, because that's actually more related to why I originally thought that the bubble will burst. So to sum it up, we have a cheaper model, which implies that NVIDIA will probably sell less GPUs, or a lot of people think that they will sell less GPUs. But there is another interesting question here, and that is, how much can we still improve on these models from a performance perspective? So if we assume that we can just go on and train better models, then this is actually not that big of a deal. This means that we suddenly have a better way to train models, and the large big companies will use this same strategy to improve on their models, and in a few weeks or months we will have way better models, and these open source models won't be that valuable. That's one option. The other option is that we are close to the limit of what we can do with the current architecture of LLMs. And if that's the case, then that means that big tech just lost all of its advantage, right? That means that we can tweak this a bit more, but no amount of extra GPU hours and extra data is going to help with improving on these models, which would actually mean that all the investment that was already poured into AI was basically for nothing. And that brings us to what I initially expected. So what I saw in the summer was a clear slowing down of improvements in the LLM space. And this is something I still see. I don't think that we are going to get so much better, more models. I don't think that we are close to AGI. What I think instead is that we need to start focusing on optimizing what we already achieved. Because this is amazing technology. It has transformed a lot of industries, and this is important to notice. But if I had to make a bet right now, I think that big tech did actually lose their mood. And what we will see now is more the optimization of these models, and these models getting lighter and easier to work with. And what we will also see probably is a tighter integration with other things. And that's a good thing. But that also means that all the valuation that was created out of the hype that people like Sam Altman have created around the promises of AGI, that valuation has to come down at point. And I don't think that's what happened. I think a lot of the investment is still made with the assumption that we are close to something bigger. But let's assume for a second that I'm wrong, that we are actually close to AGI, that we are close to something that will completely transform how our society works. My question is, in that case, would the current system, economic system, still work? Because let's assume that AI can do all work and we don't need humans to do work. But then how do people get the money to buy stuff, right? So either way, whoever is investing into AI with the assumption that AGI is being built, if they are actually right and we do reach AGI, what is the plan for getting that investment back? Like, what is the return on investment? But to sum it up, I don't think this is the collapse that I was expecting originally. I do think that this change is substantial, and I'm really, really curious what direction the events are going to take. I have honestly no clue yet how this will play out. We'll see, I guess. So I usually talk about software topics on this channel, mostly focusing on incremental development and dealing with legacy code. So if that kind of stuff is interesting for you, subscribe and see you next time.